Well, we want to say thanks for coming today. We appreciate you coming to our new class presented by the Red Stick Warriors in conjunction with Digital Feather Media. This class is going to be called Beginning the Muscogee Language, Beginning Muscogee Language, taught by Nelson Harjo Sr. So we appreciate you coming. Thanks for coming today, and we hope you enjoy.
Maro. Again, I want to reiterate what he said. My name is Nelson Harjo. I have to put the senior in there. But I come originally from Walika and got married. My wife, she's one of the Burgesses from there in Henrietta. And then, like usual, people follow their wives, and so here I am. I live in Henrietta now out there on the land, and so that's where I originate at. I teach the beginning Creek language at our college at Creek Nation. One of the things about that, I've been doing this now for about 6 years. I don't consider myself a fluent speaker, but one of the things that I have been fortunate to do is to learn how to read the language. That's something that my dad had taught me when I was probably about in the 5th or 6th grade, so I began to learn how to read the language from a way back. And so never realized that I would be in this particular position to begin to teach. And so that's basically who I am. And so what I want to do before we go any further, we'll start left to right, and everybody and the students here can introduce themselves. Hoopty.
Oh, my name is Debbie Johnson.
Okay.
Andrea Alexander.
David Jones.
Julie Harjo.
Jeanette Franks.
Jeanette Franks, okay. All right. Now, it may take me a little while. I know 3 of these people real well, especially the one. And the other 2, it might take me a little bit to remember your names. And, you know, this is what I always tell every class that I have, so that way I can begin to call on you separately and everything. But one of the things about Beginning Creek is this is where we begin to really learn about how to write the language, how to read the language. And one of the most important things that you can tell is as you look up here on the board, I already have the alphabet up here on the board. And this is the one thing that I'm really going to begin to key into, is because it's most important that I see that you have the alphabet. Because without the alphabet, you cannot read the language. Without the alphabet, even if you try to read the language, you don't know all the correct sounds of the vowels and everything. And matter of fact, we only have 20 vowels within our alphabet language, and they all have their unique sounds. And, you know, it's like even, you know, as we look here, before we go over this, if you look at the letter C up here, you know, it's not a C that you would hear like in Spanish, how they use it as a K. It's not K, but ours has that CH sound to it, ch, and, you know, it has that particular sound. And when we go down here and you look at the R and just dealing with consonants, right now the R is not a regular R. Although I had some students that would say rut-row, you know, when they're reading, and, you know, that's kind of funny, but that's because they haven't completely learned everything yet. But the R has a thli sound to it, that THL, and that's kind of like the THL that you hear in the word athlete. And so when you come to the R, it has that thli, and your tongue goes to the top of your mouth, and it's kind of the sound goes out the side of your tongue as you drop your tongue, thli. And so that's where that comes from. And so there's going to be some different sounds here, and even things that aren't normally vowels. For instance, the letter V, as we're looking up here, right here is not really a vowel in the English alphabet, but in the Creek language it is a vowel, and it has a sound of And so we're going to go through these, but the wonderful thing about this is that I'm going to, hopefully by the time we finish doing all the DVDs here and the classes that we have here, is that you have the ability not only to know the alphabet, to be able to say the alphabet, to be able to count to 20, to know different colors, and just a lot of different things, but most importantly, that whenever you see a Creek word out there, that you're able to read that word. Now, will you fully understand it? Well, I can't teach the complete language with just in 15 weeks, but what will happen is at least you'll be able to write it down, because if you remember how it sounds, then you can write it down and you can look it up in a dictionary, and then you'll know that word the next time you see it. And so that's the important thing for me. And this is something that I always share with every class that I have. These are the things that we try to emphasize on. And so as we get started here, we need to go down. I'm gonna say the word, or I'm gonna go through it just on the right side, the phonetic sound. We're gonna go down that a couple of times. And then, you know, if that sounds pretty good, well, then what we'll do is then we'll say, like later on, we'll say all, and then we'll come back and say ofki and ayo. And so now we'll hear how that word, that particular alphabet is used within a word. And so first of all, we'll start with the phonetic side, and we'll do that a couple of times. Okay? So here we go. I'll say it, and you repeat it. Ah. Chi. Eh. E. Fi. He. A. Ki. Li. Me. Ni. O. P. Cli. C. T. U. We. Ye. Not too difficult. Not too difficult. Everybody say the R okay? Yeah. You know, I have some students that the R was always difficult. And one of the reasons why is that if you've never been around the language at all, then your tongue hasn't been developed to say any of our words. That makes the R pronunciation very difficult. But if you've been around the language and you've heard it spoken and there's some words you know, then your tongue is pretty well conditioned to be able to say those particular alphabets. So here we go again, one more time. Ah, chi, eh, e, fi, he, a, ki, li, me, ni, o, b, thli, si, ti, u, we, ye. Excuse me just a moment. All right, that was good. That was really good. Pardon me. Now, what we're going to do is, as we look at this, we're going to go ahead, we're going to say ah, and then we're going to go to the middle and say the words in the middle. Okay? And so that way we can see how they're used with other words or other consonants and everything and other vowel sounds. And so here we go. Ah, afki, ayo, chi, chisi, chazi, chakiban, e, iga, iro, ipoji, idolwa, igana, ibagan, fi, figi, facha, fushwa, he, hishche, hatki, hamgan, a, heyi, legida, begida, ki, gajo, gabi, li, litki, luja, lamhi, me, mahi, mado, mijas, ni, najome, nagin, nuri, o, oba, oski, owa, pi, bathko, puski, pome, fli, flakko, fli, flaslo, si, sasakwa, sada, Sura, Di, Dinitki, Torolose, Tutchinen, U, Chula, Kuri, Pojasi, A, Chasi, Paji, Aji, We, Wasco, Waga, Wiso, Yi, Yaha, Yafki, Yanaza. Not too bad, not too bad. Does that seem pretty easy? There's probably a lot of words in there that you recognize. I was told that this particular word here on the T part, you know, we got Dinitki, then it's Torolosi. They said that was more of an old way of saying chicken, then they just shortened it down to simply just saying Tolosi. And so that's why that's in there. The person that wrote this was pretty adamant about putting certain things in there at different times. And so this right here is really the key to speaking the language, I believe. One of the things is about this, again, it's just like learning English again, as I reiterated before, is that if you want to learn English, then you have to learn the alphabet first in order to learn the sounds and everything. And so the same goes for Creek. If you want to learn the Creek language or the Seminole language, well then one of the most important things is to understand the alphabet, and especially the vowel sounds. Because predominantly all the consonants up here are all the same, other than the certain ones I talked about, but they're all the same as in English, but it's the vowel sounds that have the little change in them that's different than the English. So once you get those vowel sounds down, then it's real easy to begin to learn to say different words if you break them up in different syllables. All right, now we're going to step to the next thing, and we're going to go over this, and this is something that as we step through this, now this is called greetings here, and so the thing is maybe some of these aren't all greetings, and there's some phrases you may use as we go through this, and some of these, as you're looking at this, you may already know. And can you see this? Everybody see the screen okay? Do I need to enlarge it some?
Enlarge just a little bit. I need to put my glasses on.
Okay, let's enlarge that a little bit more.
Yeah.
That'll work?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as we go through here, now when we get to the money part, now just to explain, charo. You know, charo is dealing like with the old bead system that they use for money. And so that's why we're using this, because I believe even on the ceremonial ground, they used to talk about charo when they counted money and different things there. And so that's one of the reasons why this is being utilized on this particular sheet. And so that way, we all know tokonawa, you know, in our language means money, but they wanted to use this the old way of saying money by saying tsarokonawan, okay? And so I think we all know these particular words. And here again, we have two different words for saying hello. And I've also heard Heathlische, and we don't have it up here. And I've only heard this a few times, Hintsche. But I've heard people say that, especially some of the older folks. But Hische, this is something that you normally hear every day. It's pretty common. And then Istungo, and I had a gentleman, he's probably about the same age as I am, but he speaks the old language. And he said he never heard it with the E at the end there. He said he just always heard Stungo. And so where this derived from, I don't necessarily fully know, other than the fact that in this particular curriculum, the formal language is to be spoken, so that way we don't really break things down into slang. And so this is why a lot of these things are fully written out, so that way we have the more formal language part of it and everything. All right, so let's move on to this, and I think there's a lot of this we already know. Can y'all read some of this already? Do y'all know? How many of y'all can read a little bit of the language? Okay. So we're not done yet. We're not done yet. And so we're going to be going through this, and so we're going to have enough time spent that by the time we get through with this and our time together, well then you guys will be able to read a lot of these different words, okay? And so here we go. We're going to start up here at top. I'm going to say each word separately. Y'all just repeat after me. Hische.
Hische.
Hinche.
Hische.
Istongo.
Istongo.
Istongesos.
Istongesos.
Hitlimahi.
Tiklimahi.
Nugget Chihojifkadi.
Nugget Chihojifkadi.
And so this little blank space is for your name. And so if I was to say my name is, I would say Nelson Chahojifkados. So say Chahojifkados.
Chahojifkados.
Okay? Then we have Mado. And then you have Mado. So you're expressing it a little bit more because of the explanation. So now here we go. Then we got Inga. Then Hinga. Now how many of y'all have heard this one? And see, I don't think that I've ever really heard that, but I'm sure that's why, we have it here, that it's been said that way at different times. And so now then here's an expression here that you don't hear quite too often at all, but it says mache. Okay, let's try that again. Mache. All right. Have y'all heard that?
That coffee out of that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
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 Uh-huh. And so that's really a word that's kind of also going to the wayside, because there's not too many people who use that and who fully understands it. So, all right, and here we go. We're going to go with the charo right here. So again, we're saying, do you have any money? So, charo kanawan o jetska. So that's, do you have any money? Okay, I want to see who has money here today. So say, ehe, charo kanawan o jes. Mongo, charo kanawan o jesigo. And so that's more like me. No, I do not have money.
And if you did,
Yeah. And if I did, I would still say, Mongo, charo kanawan o jesigo. And a lot of my students that I have, my classes I teach, it's like from 3:30 to 5. So one of the first things I always ask my class, I'll say, Chudutski lady. And the majority of them always say this part, Ehe, Chudutski lidos. And then they always tell me they're sleepy. So let's say this one, are you sleepy? Chudutski lady. Okay. And then we got Ehe, Chudutski lidos. Okay. And then we have Mongo Chanutskaligodos. And the reason why I emphasize that last part is it makes it a little bit easier to say, because when you look at this middle part, galigo, sometimes people, they get their tongue twisted a little bit. And so normally you're going to hear it just say, Mongo Chanutskaligodos. They'll just kind of say it like that, and not as hard as I emphasize it. But I do that and kind of draw it out so it makes it a little bit easier to say. Now, and then here we have Hombidan Chiyaja. Then we got Ehe Hombidan Chiyajes. All right, so y'all's really hungry. So then we have Mongo. Okay, here, let's try that again. Mongo Hombidan Chiajizigo. I say we're going to save on the eating tab today because nobody's hungry. All right, and then today, before we leave, this is one of the phrases I want us all to say to each other. Now, the phrase that you had, who was that told me the phrase? One of the camera guys told me a different phrase and what they would use down here in Seminole, country. But for us, we hear a lot of people saying this, and sometimes they won't even say hadam to say again. They'll just say, I'll be seeing you. They'll just say chihi chaflis. And so you can use the whole thing, or you can just use part of it. But for the class sake, we always use the full thing, so as to say, we will see you again. And if you think about that particular phrase right there, that's predominantly what we say even at funerals and different things, because we never say goodbye. We never say any of those things. And so this is really relative to how we look at things. We know that one day, we're going to see you again, whether it's this lifetime or the next. And so here we go. Haram. Chihichaflis. And now, this particular phrase, the way it was explained to me, because I asked about that, because I know there's different ways of saying things. Well, in one of my classes, we end up calling one of the students Madat, and because relating to this phrase here, because there were things he would do, and I would just shake my head and say, "Man," I said, "Come on now, stay with me." And so it's just kind of like this phrase here is like, "Well, that's all right, but don't do it again." It's kind of what it's saying. So you're going to say Madat, Istong Esos. Okay. So is that pretty easy? Can y'all kind of understand that? And can you kind of read some of it? So let's go back through here one more time. And we're going to go back through here and we'll take off and we're going to work our way back down. And so I'm going to say them. And now let me ask this question. If we go back through these one more time, and if I just look to y'all, you think you could say those phrases by yourself? Maybe not. Okay, we'll wait. I'm just checking. Every now and then I'll have some that can. Okay, and that's okay. So let's go ahead and go through here. So here we go. Hische. Hinche. Istongo. Istongesos. Hitlemahe. Nugget Chihojifkadi. And of course, again, your name, and then you say Chahojifkados. Okay? Mado. And then Mado. All right, then we have Inga. Hinga. Oh, just to back up a moment. Now, this is what you'll hear. Sometimes they express it really loud and clear out there at the ceremonial ground. So that Mado is just a simply straight Mado, but like at ceremonial ground, sometimes after a good song, boy, they'll really say it out loud. That's that expression. All right, here we go. Mache. And then we have Charokanawan Ojetska. Ehe. Charokanawan Ojes. Mongo Charokanawan Ojesigo. All right, here we go. And I was like this early this morning. Chunutska lady. Ehe. Chunutska lidos. Okay, let's move on. Mongo Chunutska ligodos. Okay, and then we have, do you want to eat? Hombidan Chiaja. Ehe. Hombidan Chiajes. Mongo Hombidan Chiajesigo. Haram Chihichaflis. Madat Istongesos. Okay. Now how was that? That seemed pretty simple? Seemed simple enough and everything? Now these things again, we're going to cover them again. This won't be the first time or the last time rather. This is something that these three things we'll always go through every class. But I won't spend as much time on them as I'm going to do today. We'll just read through them so that way the alphabet, you're still hearing it. You're still seeing the phrases. And so some of these phrases you can actually begin to use. And then, of course, we're going to go over some animals here in just a moment. But I think these are some of the three key things. not only does it help us to begin to see how the alphabet is really used, but what it also does is we have these other words that we can use them in, and then plus we're learning some different things to say, and then, you know, like with the different animals and everything. And it's funny how that there's some of the folks that are very fluent and not saying anything bad and not intending anything bad, but sometimes I'll start asking them about certain things, but it's like this, you know, I guess because the language is not spoken as much as it used to be. And like right now, every word that I'm saying, you're hearing every single word and you understand every single word that I'm saying. But if you'll notice now, when people are speaking in our language, somebody will speak and there'll be a pause because you're thinking about what they just said. Because we don't have enough people speaking back and forth like they used to where they can just sit there and carry on a conversation and somebody can just automatically begin to respond to them. Now there's some that you'll see in certain communities where they speak the language all the time, and so somebody will say something, then somebody just automatically answer. But it's getting far and fewer that you're going to see that now. So people, some of the fluent speakers that I talk to, they'll say, they told me this, they said, because what we're doing is we're listening to the conversation and we're picking out words that we can hear, the ones that we understand. And they said we might miss some of the conversation, and so sometimes we'll answer, and he said you might see the other person kind of maybe do a little frown, or then they may say it again, and then finally he said then we'll say oh okay, and then they'll say back to him in the language because they didn't hear the complete thing. They were just picking out certain words anymore, and that's unfortunate. So that we've dwindled down so much to where the language is just not spoken fluently between two people who are having a conversation. Have y'all seen that happen? Have y'all? Yeah. Go ahead.
She was a fluent speaker, but as she got into like her 50s and people who were in their 20s and 30s could speak the language to her, she said that they spoke too fast. You know how you did the slow, you brought the sound out a little bit more? They would clip it. She said it was clipped. And she had a hard time understanding them. And she would ask them to slow down. So she got to where she wouldn't hardly speak to them because of that.
Right. And see, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's a lot of the new speakers that don't understand the expressions of those words. And I mean, they may understand the word itself, but how to really express it. And they try to speak it like they do in English. Just like I'm talking right now, I'm just talking real fast in English. But when you listen to our language, it's so beautiful, especially when you hear the old ones speak. You know, you hear those long expressions. You know, that's just like saying the simple word "hofonen," you know, which means long ago. And then, you know, they could just say, you could, maybe a new speaker might just say "hofonen." Well, to a fluent speaker, they're hearing just like, did they just mean an hour ago? You know, because if they were really talking about something that happened months ago and they just said "hofonen," a fluent speaker is going to take it as just meaning maybe an hour or maybe a day ago. Whereas if they wanted to express it that something happened really long ago, then they'd say "hofonen." Then they'll hold it out and they express it a little bit more. And so I can understand what you're saying and what your mother was saying. And so this is one of the things that as you begin to learn the language, well then it's just like when you're visiting with friends. See, right now I'm just kind of speaking real as plain as I can because we're in class. Even the language, you're going to speak it as plain as you can so people can hear what you're saying and understand it. But once you really begin to learn the language, and that's just like even talking out here in English with friends, then all of a sudden your voice changes. You go up and down with how you're expressing things. Even in English, you do that. And so once you get the ideal of the language and begin to understand what you're saying, then there's going to come a moment in when all of a sudden you're going to start talking and you're going to allow yourself to express yourself. And so, unfortunately, I think that's one of the key points to, you know, for people to begin to learn. Because again, like you said, now I talk a lot. So, like you said, there's, you know, we lose a lot when we're not able to express it like it needs to be done. So, again, these are things we're going to be going over quite often. And so I try to hold things out as much as I can. It does make it easier to say, and that may be one of the reasons why some of our older people done it too, is because it allowed it to express the word better, but also it made it easier. All right, now we're going to go something right here to the animals. And what I was saying earlier about the animals is that when I talk to people, because we don't talk about animals that much, especially our fluent speakers, I'll ask them things. They'll say, oh, let me think. And so animals is always a good thing to learn too in beginning language. You know, so that way we can begin to get that understanding of what they're talking about and the different things as far as animals are concerned. Now, can you see this, Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, we're going to start with the first list. And this word right here is abuiga. Abuiga. And that means like domesticated or tame animals. That's what that means. Okay. And so here we go. I think we all know these, don't we? So here we go. Ifa. Pose. Flacco. Waga. Suka. Dolose. Chowara. Yabifega. Nagadi, y'all know what Yabifega is?
Like a goat horn.
Now, this Yabifega, this one here is a sheep.
Okay.
Yeah, this one. Now, those words are kind of similar, and I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it being a wild animal, it'd be on that wild list. But Yabifega, in this instance, is talking about the sheep that's out there. And one of the things I always express to my students, and I was sitting down talking to some of the older ones, because, you know, I've never really got the description of Ifa or Pulsi, but, you know, when you look at Flacco, you know, when you think about that, Flacco just really, in our language, what means big. And so, now, I've heard it different ways, and then other people say it differently. One of the ways that I've heard this was they used to say Izo Flacco, because the horse looked like a big deer, and then eventually they dropped the word Izo, and then here we go, we're stuck with the word Flacco now. So you look at the horse and you're not really saying horse, but you're saying big. But that's the word we use to describe horse. And that's like the same way with this word here, waga. And, you know, for us growing up, waga, well, we look out there in any pasture, what do we see? We see a cow, that's a waga. But the way I was told was that waga means that basically it's something that lies down. And so I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. And so it's so neat that our words don't really exactly say those animals, but it's our description of them. It's what it is. All right, we stopped at Yabifega, so let's go now to the next one. And that's right here. It's Benwa. Jofi, Fujo, Fushwa. Now, do y'all know any of these words that I'm saying so far? Okay. Bajilani. You know what that one is? That's a parrot. That's a parrot. And so it's kind of like Bajihoyi, which is talking about a dove. And so it's similar like that, but the Lani is talking about the color. So Bajilani, it's like a yellow dove, I guess you'd say, in one sense of the way. And so then we got Slaslo. Now, here we have Fushjada. Y'all know this one? And so, now, here we got Fushjadi. Now, Fushjadi is red bird. Let me enlarge this just a little bit more so you can see it a little bit better. I'm sorry, I'm going to move it up again. So we got Fushjadi right here. But Fushjada, Jada means blood. So Fushjada, we're speaking about a cardinal. So that's the color of blood, that bird. Okay? And so now then you have the next one, Fushjadi. Now Jadi just simply means red. And so now we're talking about just a red bird. Okay? All right, then we got Sagila. Blackbird. Blackbird. So we can have some, what do they call that? Blackbird pie. Just ask for some sagula. This sagula.
No bird, no black, you know, like,
Well, see, the LV is going to be leaning more towards the color of it being black. And I asked about the soggy when I was talking to our director. She never fully expressed to what that meant because I was wanting to understand that fully. I know it means blackbird, but how it's broken down, she never fully expressed that to me. And so those are the things. Some of these, when I go out and teach classes in other places, I talk to a lot of our elders, and I get a lot of the information from them because that's what I always bring back to my class. I try to bring everything I can back so we can understand really, you know, what that fully means. So now we got Sazakwa. Okay, let me hear you. Sazakwa. There we go. There we go. And then Chufitlako. Now, what do you think we'll be talking about? A big rabbit. Which rabbit do you think we're talking about? Jackrabbit. Jackrabbit. I was fortunate. We was out there in Arizona. I got back from Tucson last week. I seen a jackrabbit. That's the first one I've seen in a long time. Because we used to have them here, and they would call them swamp rabbits too around here. No, we didn't eat them all. And so now we come down here. We got now. Here's a big long word. Okay, here we go. Tlaco Bega Haga. Let's try that again. Tlaco Bega Haga. What is that? Tlaco Bega Haga.
Like a mule or a donkey?
It's a donkey. That's a donkey. And the word below it, Tlaco Bega, is talking about the mule. But at the end of the first one, Tlaco Bega Haga is dealing with the sound that little donkey makes. So, you know, the ee-haw, ee-haw, you know, so to speak. And so that's what that is. And so now, and then we just got Tlaco Bega there. Now, this one here, now this is it can kind of be a difficult word to say. And I've heard this two ways. And I'm going to read it the first way that we have it here that we utilize in our class. And it's called Huntla Chukwuji, or Chukwuji. I'm sorry. Huntla Chukwuji. Huntla Chukwuji. Okay, let's try it one more time. We'll say the first part. Huntla Chukwuji. Okay, that's hummingbird. Hummingbird. Now, a lady, she's from around the Walika area. She's an older lady. Boy, she speaks the old language fluently. And she said, the way we used to say this was Huntla Wuji. Huntla Wuji. Let's try that. Huntla Wuji. And so, so now you got Huntla Chukwuji, and then you got Huntla Wuji. And so, I don't argue. You know, these older ones, they know. And so, and that, to me, that just adds to my knowledge. And so if I hear them say Huntla Wuji, well, then I know what they're saying. But if I also hear Huntla Chukwuji, then I also know what they're saying. And so this is a buiga. These were tame animals. So for the most part, you guys knew all these animals, right? Except for just a few. And so again, outside of the video we're making here, if you bring a thumb drive, I will give you these papers. And so when you buy the video, well, then you'll have that to go by. You'll always have that to practice with. All right, now let's go to the other side here. Now we've got banada. Bunada. I'm sorry, bunada. That's wild. That's wild. Okay. All right, now here we go. These are the ones that are a little bit different here. Okay, here we go. Gotcha. What is that one? Tiger. Ishtibaba. Excuse me a minute. Okay. What Ishtibaba again? What is that one? Okay, Ishti Baba. So when we think of Ishti, how many of y'all know what Ishti means? Yes, sir?
Person.
It's a person. Baba, what does that mean? Eat. So now we got an animal, that lion, it's a person eater. That's what it is. So Ishti Baba. Now, here we go with this next one. Yobuluwagi. Nagadi, what is that?
Elephant.
Elephant. And so when we look at this right here, let me just divide that up a little bit. So we got Yubul, which means nose, and then at the end you got Luwagi, which means limber. And so his name really was an elephant, it was limber nose. But because we refer to that animal that is referred to as an elephant in English, and we refer to him, we're just calling him limber nose, Yubul Luwagi. Okay, so let's say it again. Yobuluwagi. Right, right. Now this one here, I don't know that I can break this one down like that, but this one is a difficult word I have found for my students to say, so I'm going to kind of break it up. And you see how I'm breaking that up? And these are the syllables that are in that particular word. So when you look at a word and you can't pronounce it fully, well then break it up. So here we go. Slut, chi, goop, he. Okay, let's say it again. Slut, chi, goop, he. Okay, let's try to say it a little bit faster. Slut, chi, goop, he. Okay, let's one more time. Slut, chi, goop, he. And so now, let me pull this word back together real quick. And so in order for you to say it, then here we go. Slut, chi, goop, he. Slut, chi, goop, he. Anybody have an idea? I'm going to make it a little bit larger again. Anybody have an idea of what this means? No? Camel. It's old camel. Yeah. So when you think of Tletchagooby, then you're supposed to say, what day is it? What day is it? It's hump day. All right. And so now, what you said earlier about Yubby Fega over here, so we have Yubby Fega over here in parentheses because it's a reference of that. So now we have right here Yubby Thlaki. Yubby Thlaki. And now that's the one that has the horns. The horns. So that's a ram. Yubby Thlaki. Okay? Wutko Ishti. Nagadi, Wutko Ishti. Anybody? Monkey. So that's a raccoon that looks like a man. That's what they're saying. So we got a monkey man, or well, not monkey man, but we got a raccoon man. Is what it is. All right. Then the next one is Yanaza. Okay, we know that one. Buffalo. Yeah. Just don't hold your hands up and say it, the donka. This is Creek. So Yanaza. All right. All right. Then we got Idzo. Gitlida. You know that one? Gitla. Deer. Itlo. You know that one, ain't it? Squirrel. All right. Now here we go. Chufi Honidza. Don't know that. Chufi. How about that one? What's chufi? Rabbit. We got rabbit. Honidza is another way of saying wild. That's talking about out there in the woods and stuff. So, Chufi Honidza. Okay, let's say it. Chufi Honidza. All right. All right, now I give Now, I'll tell you, like I tell my class, I give participation credits at the end of the course. Okay, and here we go. Chisi. We know that. Chisitlaco. What's that one? Rat. It's just a big old rat. Yeah, big old mouse. Then we got Noguzi. Then we got Noguzi Lusty. We know that too, huh? Black bear, and we got bear. And this was in the list, and I've never quite understood what was in the list, but it's there on the wild side. So Tava. Okay, that's feather. And then we got Wasco. What is Wasco? Chigger. Yeah. So when you go out there, those Wascos just get all over you. You're walking out there in the weeds or something. All right. Then we got Pajihoye. That one's dove. That's the dove. Just a quick story about that. One of our older ceremonial ground leaders up here, Creek Country, he said, you know, at night you hear that dove, how it's making that call. And he said, a long time ago, he said, that mother went out looking for food, and she had all her babies in her nest, and said that there was an animal that came by, seen her nest, seen the babies, ate the babies, and then went on its way. And said, so every evening when you hear that Pajihoyo out there making that call, she's still calling for her little ones. She might think, she said, thinks they're lost, and still calling for them to come back. So.
Is it like just a dove, a turtle dove?
Yeah, it's just dove. And so they always refer to that one that makes that noise in the evening time.
I thought it was turtle dove.
Turtle dove that does that? And so Lamhi, Nagi, you know this one? Eagle. Gufko. Excuse me. If you don't dip your animals, what are they going to get? Fleas. We'll get fleas on them. Gufko. Then we got Tsana. Happens to you every time you go to a picnic, they come around, you're swatting them. Flies. Chula. Fox. There we go. Yaha. Wolf. How about goody? You hear them at night, and they're sitting up on tree limbs, making a lot of noise. It's a little tree frog. Little tree frog. Yeah. All right. Now this one here has, and I lost the spelling for the other word, but that same lady that talked to me about Huntla Tukwazi, that said Huntla Budzi, she told me the other word, but it's strange because now here's what's going to happen. Different dictionaries from different periods spell things a lot differently. Some of the definitions to the words are sometimes different. And so you can kind of tell where we're at within our language. When you look back at some of the older material, there's a lot of things that have changed. Because she gave me a word for worm, but chunta, she said, is more like a maggot. And for the class, we always said worm, but when I looked up chunta, but it also can mean worm too. And so the word she had, I may have it somewhere saved in here. I'll have to see if I can find it so I can bring that word back out. And so I thought that was pretty neat, you know. And so so that way we'll always have both words, you know. So, all right, here we go. Ayo. We know what that is? Hawk. Okay, how about okiha? No? That's a mosquito. Mosquito. Now here's one right here. You don't hear this one every day. I mean, that's not something you see on the side of the road or if you go hunting anywhere around here. Hulwidaska. Anybody?
Something that jumps high.
There you go. Hulwe meaning high, daska meaning jump. It's a kangaroo. So we got kangaroo. Wow. That's pretty neat. But that's our list. That's our animals list. And so these will be things that we'll be going over every day. And so this is something that I think we need to, we'll practice on. And all this does for you here is helps you get into some small phrases at the beginning. You have the alphabet that you can begin to go over, so you can begin to see the sounds and you can hear the sounds and the words. And so there's a lot of different words, but at the same time, you're also picking up some things that maybe you didn't know and some animals you didn't know, so you're beginning to build your understanding a little bit. I think at this time, it's around 11:12. I think we may go ahead and just take a short intermission. And so we'll break just for a little bit. And somebody need to go to Muscogee or might need some Weewa or something. So, all right. So we'll go ahead and break for now. All right. I guess we're ready to resume class again. And I don't have a bell that I can ring to bring everybody back in or anything. Everybody had a break. Got some coffee, and I think somebody thought they heard Sofky out there a while ago. So, I don't know if Sofky was good and fresh or kind of kamoksi or not. I don't know. I didn't really want to find out because I don't like sour Sofky. But anyway, these are the things that we're going over today. These are the things that we're going to finish up with today. And so what I want to do as we go through here, I don't know whether or not if any of you guys have any access to dictionaries. Do y'all have any access to dictionaries? And so we got dictionaries and stuff. And again, if you want to bring a thumb drive, well then what I'll do is I'll put each class on your thumb drive for you. And so again, you'll have the material that way, but then also you'll have the video that you'll be able to refer to. So that way you'll actually see everything that was live and, as it was recorded and more of the instructions. And maybe there's some things you forgot about and then you can come back to it and then you can hear everything said. And so if you can't remember, well, then you can actually look at the video and hear everything that's said. And so, again, bring your thumb drives and I'll put these on there. And so this is, again, we're going to go back over this. And is there any questions right now before we get back into this a little bit further? Because here we dealt with the alphabet, the saying of the alphabet. We've dealt with some of the greetings, and we went through and said those greetings. And then we had the abuiga and the panetta. And so, those are the wild animals and domesticated animals. And so, is there any questions up to this point?
No, well, you did clear it up, like when you were talking about the red bird and then the cardinal.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're different.
Mm-hmm.
There's things like that I see that I think that I know, but it's got a different kind of meaning, like a distinct from
right.
How they describe it.
Right.
That's what gets me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be thinking, well, yeah, I know this word, I know what you're talking about, but
right.
More or
I
less.
was just wondering about an older greeting that some people say. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but something like "Ko Magadi"
Ko Magadi.
or "Ko Wagadi."
Ko Wagadi.
Ko Wagadi, yeah.
I think Kawagadi, a gentleman told me one time when they used that particular word, or Ko Magadi, how you said it the first time. A lot of times that word was used in, not to be no disrespect, but when they would come up to people, in order to coming up and saying, "Histe, Istungo, hello, are you well?" And then all of a sudden the person goes, "You know what? My back's been hurting me today. My knee's been hurting. Doggone it, man, and it just like hot water tank went out, makes my bones hurt." And so in order to get past that, they say that particular greeting so it steers them clear from having the chance to sit there and tell you what's been going on for about an hour or so, and so that's that particular greeting that you're saying. And so there's that greeting, and it's strange that I think that greeting's kind of similar to what my dad used to say too. He said, because a long time ago, he said, especially people that went to church, and maybe even a ceremonial ground, I'm not real sure about that, but he referred to the church. He said they would say something similar to that. And in one sense, the way they just simply say, "Are you the same?" And you either said yes. He said they would either reply, "Yes, I am," or they would say, "No, I'm not." He said, and then we also knew they would sometimes just simply say, "Just pray for me." And he said, so that one little phrase covered a lot of area, and so you didn't have to really reiterate a lot back to a person. They're just asking a specific thing. And so that's where those type of words come into play, I believe. And so from my understanding, from what I've been told.
What about the Inga? Inga is always there.
Inga,
Oh, not Inga.
Inga, it's depending on how you want to express it, you know. You can say okay or okay, yeah, it's just like, when you leave each other, when you're parting ways. Maybe you haven't seen a person in a long time, and so maybe when you're parting ways, then you don't just say, "I'll see you later." You're going to really express yourself, and so saying "Inga," yeah, that's and different things like that. It all depends on the particular phrase, and it all depends on what's going on at that particular time. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
I do have another question. When we were talking about goodbye,
Mm-hmm.
I've always understood, padam, chihi jaflis,
Mm-hmm.
is if you're saying to one person, and then padam, I think you put a T there, tihi jaflis, for more than one person.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
I have to look at that.
Because I think
Yeah,
that
tihi.
tihi also,
Uh-huh.
instead of chihi.
Oh, okay. Let me think about that. There's so many different things, because in our language, there's certain words, like for instance, you come up here, if you'll notice right here, T. Chulutkalidi, that T lets you know automatically that's a question. That tells you that's that T at the end. And so we use a lot of different prefixes and suffixes at the beginnings of nouns, at the beginnings of verbs, and at the endings of them, and different things, in order to mean something completely different. And so that could be very true what you're talking about. I'll have to look at that and see, and then so like maybe the next class when I come back, I'll go back over that again just to make sure we've got that. Because one of the things, if I don't know for sure, then I'm going to find out, and I'm going to bring it back. I'll be honest, I don't know everything about everything in the language, and but I do have resources that I go to when I have difficult times on certain things. So I'll make sure of that. I also have other materials that I'll be sharing with you, and so you'll be able to see this material. And so there's going to be some things in there that we may want to share, we may not want to share later on. But I don't think it would be right now, because at this particular point, one of the ideals in the first class is understanding what the alphabet says, understanding what the vowel sounds are saying. Coming to this particular phrase of the greetings is hearing those vowel sounds, and hearing how the fact that the V, when we look at the V right here, just starting right here, if you look at the V up there, and when you look at the alphabet sheet, the V has a sound of okay? And when you look at the alphabet and the vowel sound of O, and you look in there, it has the sound of O. And when you look at the C, that's one of the things I emphasized a while ago. Our C is not like the Spanish C of ka, but it has the CH sound, cha, cha, cha. And then the T, sometimes our people pronounce the T, and sometimes you'll hear that T, it almost sounds like a half T, half D, ta, And so now here we have chado. So the vowels didn't change their sound just because we have a C or a T. They maintained their sound. And then the same way with the U, which is a U, and the A is a ah. And so let me divide that up for you. And so here we have that. And so, and then you have this here. And so again, we have chado, that's divided up. And then you got ku. You remember the U had the U sound. And then you got na, the A had the ah sound. And then you got the V. And then there's an N there. Chado kunawan. So the V, irregardless of what consonant's in front of it, it still maintains that vowel sound of Sometimes what happens, excuse me again, sometimes what happens is that some of the students, they have a tendency to take the V and change it to, oo, and sometimes they'll say and so that makes it difficult when it comes to reading. And so we got to remember, when you look at the alphabets page, that particular sound that's for those vowel sounds is a particular sound that those vowels maintain. Your consonants, again, are just consonants. It doesn't change the vowel sound. And so again, we got chado, kunawan, and then here's that O again, just like over here. You know, it's a chado, and then we say O, and then the I had an A sound, remember? So we got O, J's. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And so when we begin to look at this, this is one of the other reasons why we have these phrases here and we use the greetings at the very beginning, is so that way you can begin to break these things out a little bit. And so here you go. Now you get it all together, you know the vowel sounds, and then so we say ehe, ehe, chado, kanawan, ojes. You can even say it slow. Don't push yourself. Don't try to, if you can't say it real fast, take your time. Chado, kanawan, ojes. The expectancy out of this class is not for you to come in here and just speak this just like you're an old-time Creek person. It's been speaking it for years. Yes, sir.
How do you know which E to use in the alphabet?
What's so funny about that, that's a conversation that I had with one of the other administrators there at the college, and we were discussing that. Sometimes those E's that we have, depending on how you're writing things, like sentence structure-wise, there's certain ways of how you're writing a particular word. And it's kind of like, say I use the animal, gotcha, okay? And we're going to use the word lusty, okay? Now, if I just say gotcha lusty, then I'm simply just saying what? Black, or a black tiger, right? Now, if I want to add a word to that to be a little bit more specific, kind of like what I said in our meeting the other day, then I would say gotcha, and then at the end of lusty, I would drop the E and add an AT, and I would say gotcha lustat, and that will give me the word the, and so now I've got the black tiger. Now, when you look at literal translation, it says tiger, black, the. But to turn it around so people can understand it in English, so then we say the black tiger, okay? A little bit more specific. But now, if I take that same word of gotcha lusty, and I add a T at the end, now this is in sentence structure that I'm speaking of, which you guys, we haven't got there yet. So just to kind of help your understanding and for me to be able to explain it. So if I add a T at the end, well, what happens by adding the T at the end, it causes that E to maintain its long sound. And so by adding a T, I would be saying gotcha lustit. And so by that E, maintaining the E sound, the long sound, it gives us the word that is. The T gives us the word a, so to speak. And so when you say gotcha lustit, and see, this is the neat thing about our language. This is why our people listen so close, because there's those subtle changes. and the pronunciation of those vowels, then I'm saying a tiger that is black. Just by simply adding a T to gotcha lusty to gotcha lustit. Now, see how the pronunciation is? Gotcha lustit. It maintains that. So a tiger that is black. Now, I can leave the ET there, but if I put a hyphen in between gotcha and lusty, the E moves to a short sound. And so therefore, it moving to a short sound, it removes those words in the middle, that is, but you maintain the one word, a, and so when you say gotcha with the hyphen, lustet, then you just simply have a black tiger. That's a lot, isn't it?
Makes sense, but I'll forget it.
Yeah. And so that's one way to know the difference of how to say the E. And through our discussion that we had, sometimes the way of learning how to say that E is just simply from hearing to how it's said. Because you can only define things to a certain amount, to when it comes just from really hearing to what's fully being said. And so you may learn it a particular way, but then when you hear people begin to say it, it may not be a full long E, it might not be a full short E, and so to say it to how it normally sounds, then you kind of copy off of what people are saying. So that's just like this particular word up here before Tzedakanawan. There's others that put the word E up here, so you hear Ehe. You ever heard it like that? Ehe? Or have you ever heard Ehe? And see, and see, there's those that have heard it that way. And from my neck of the woods, from where I grew up around the Alabamans, a lot of them say Ehe. And so what this right here, the way it was written, she went with from how she said it and how she always heard it. And so now you still have those two ways, but it's not to really say, I guess I wouldn't say either way is wrong, and I wouldn't either say either way is most right, because dialect has a lot of effect too on how some things are said. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's some of this is just from we learn it here, but your real classroom is out there with those who know the language. The things I always tell my students, the things that we learn here, don't you dare go out and tell the fluent speakers, no, this is the correct way. Because if you do, then you deserve everything you get. You deserve it all. This right here, this is a way to help us to begin to simply to learn to engage in the language, to begin to engage into it, to begin to get it here. And once we begin to learn how to say and understand the vowel sounds, say some phrases, and begin to move through to learning how to construct sentences and different things, this is how we begin to learn how to engage with our elders who can fluently speak. And it's there to where a lot of corrections are going to take place. I tell my students there at the tribe, at the college, this is what I always tell them. I said, so never take everything you have as the gospel. This is what we know, from our point of teaching. But when you go out there, that's the real classroom. That's the real classroom. So I said, always be courteous. Always be courteous, because, again, they're going to tell you different ways. They're going to tell you. I've heard a lot of different ways since I've been teaching. And then, of course, I've even heard some that you're not absolutely teaching right. And, I'm not going to argue with that either. But I am going to teach what I know. And these are the things that I've learned over the years, teaching, with, for the past 6 years. So this is what we're covering here. And so you can take your alphabet and you can begin to learn to say all these different words, and it's just 3 pages: alphabet, the greetings page, and the animals page. But once you get to the point to where you can look at those and you begin to pick them up, because on the next lesson that I'll be teaching, well then it'll be a little bit easier for you to say them, but you stay with the alphabet, stay with these things that we've started out with, and each lesson that you get, well then guess what? There's going to come a point to where you won't need the alphabet anymore. These particular pages you're going to know real well, and any other page that I present to you from there on, you're going to begin to start reading. And you won't know when it is you start reading. It's just the fact that you'll start reading it, and then one day you'll think, oh wow, I can read the language now. And so the next thing is getting it in here. The understanding of it is getting it in here. Okay? Any other questions? Excuse me. Any other questions? No?
No.
Okay. He's messing with you?
No, I was gonna say, now I understand what you mean, not fully about the consonant.
Uh-huh.
And that vowel or whatever you said.
Uh-huh.
But you gotta recognize it here to get easier out there.
Because here's what I'm definitely going to tell you, and I want you to understand this. Learning to see it up here, learning to read it, is different than hearing it. And so that's why this is the most important part, because without this, you don't know what you're hearing. But once you begin to understand what some of the things that they're saying and what they mean, then even though you're seeing it here and you can go over it, you can read it to me, you can do whatever you want to with anybody else, but then when they start speaking, then you have to really listen with your ears to what they're saying. And that's where that's always somewhat the most difficult part, but once you allow yourself to engage with those folks who really know the language, well then next thing you know, that'll begin to get a lot easier, and then it won't be long from there that you're going to really begin to speak. It takes time. Yes, sir?
What I always thought is that I could have learned this, but I was just too lazy. And then I see, I used to work with Mexicans all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it and I said, dang, they can learn English. I know I can learn my own language.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how could I say this. It's I didn't know how important this was going to be until I was asked to teach, and so now here we are, and it's a very important thing.
My mom used to say, "Oh, I just made a big mistake when we didn't teach you to learn how to speak." She said, "There's so many things I can tell you, but I can't tell you in English."
Mm-hmm.
And I used to listen to them talk real, fluently, expressions, and the way they said the words and stuff. You could. She would say, I just thought it'd be better that you wouldn't be made fun of in school. My dad would always say, I try to teach you too stupid. Shit. I could tell that it bothered him.
And again, I have a lot of students that reiterate the same thing that you're talking about to me. The thing is here we are now.
Yeah.
We're beginning now, and so we're going to try to help that as much as we can. Now, one of the things I think is real key out of this is the fact that if you never really ever become really fluent within the speaking, but you begin to get to the point to where you can understand, that even makes a bigger difference. If you go to a church and you begin to sing some of our hymns, well, guess what? All of a sudden you're going to begin to recognize words. You're going to begin to understand what you're saying. And the one thing that I always tell my students is this: the guy who gave us our language is still there. And so pray a lot. Look to him, because he still holds the language for us. And so I'm sure once we begin to do all this, you go through this, he's going to help you begin to learn it again. Okay. All right, let's go through this real quick again, okay? I want us to go through this. All right, here we go. And we're going to say the phonetic sound, and we're just going to step right off into the middle part, okay? Here we go. Ah. Afki. Ayo. Chi. Chisi. Chasi. Chakiban. Ega. Ero. Epoje. Idalwa. Igana. Ibagan. Figi. Facha. Fuswa. Hische. Hutki, Humgan, A, Heyi, Legida, Pegida, Ki, Ki, Gajo, Gabi, Li, Litki, Luja, Lamhi, Mi, Mahi, Maro, Mijas. Okay, let me move this up some more. Okay. Ni, Najome, Nagin, Nudi, O, Oba, Oski, Owa, Bi, Bathko, Buthki, Bome, Thli, Thlako, Thli, Thluthlo, Si, Sasakwa, Sada, Suda, Di, Dinitki, Torolose, Tutjinen, U, Chula, Guri, Pujazi. Okay, then we're going to finish up. Chazi, Baji, Aji, We, Wasco, Waga, Wiso, Yi, Yaha, Yafki, Yanaza. Pretty good, pretty good. All right. You are now all Creek speakers. No. All right. Oh yeah, Mado, Mache, Mache. There we go. All right. Now let's go ahead and move on to these. Now, can you see these okay, Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure. All right. And here we go. Hische. Hinche. Istongo. Istongezos. Hitlemahi. Okay, now we're coming to a longer phrase. Nugget chihojifkadi. And then you say your name and then say chahojifkados. Then there's that mado. And then mado. There we go. And then you got inga. Hinga. And then mache. And so you can see the exclamation point right there on mache. So you know that's a big expression for you. Okay, then now we got, let me move this up until we're to the end here. All right, now we're going to talk about money. I'm going to see who says eh hey to this. Here we go. Charokanawan o jetska. Eh hey. Charokanawan ojes. Let's try that again. Eh hey. Charokanawan ojes. Mongo Charokanawan ojesigo. Then we have now, are you sleepy? And you're probably saying, oh yes, I'm getting sleepy. Let me get over here, push this up a little bit. All right. Chunutskilidi. Ehe. Chunutskilidos. Mongo Chalutskaligodos. All right. Then Humbadan Chiaza. Ehe. Humbadan Chayajes. Mongo Humbadan Chayajizigo. And then here we have this one. And so again, when we're done today, from y'all, I want to hear Hadam. Chihi Chahlis. And then we have Madat. Istongesos. Okay. Now, can you kind of see the letters in there and the alphabet? And you can kind of begin to make them out? Okay. And so that's what I'm glad to hear that. That's what my intentions are. So that way we can go through this and begin to not only learn the meanings, but we can also look at it and we can really just pick up to where we can begin to say the words. Okay, now we've got, now this part right here, we, you know, you heard when I said a while ago, we wa, you know, we was always in water. And so that's what that UE is. So we got abwiga. That's tame. So here we go. Ifa. Pose. Tlako. Waga. Sukha. Tolose. Chowara. Yabifega. Pinwa. Chofe. Fujo. All right, let me push this up. Fuswa. Pajilani. Fluslo. Fusjada. And that H there, C-A-H, you kind of have to hear that H sound. So you say Fusjada. You know, it's kind of breathy, but Fusjada. And then we got Fusjadi. Sagila. Sasakwa. Chofilako. Then here we go to these right here. Flako Bega Haga. I don't want to hear y'all saying that to each other now. You Flako Bega Haga. And then we got Flako Bega. Hantla Chukwoji. Now let's say it that other way. Hantla Woji. All right. All right. Now let's come down to here. And so we have Panada, which means wild. All right. You might want to call somebody that. They're Panada, they're wild. Okay, here we go. Gotcha. Ishtibaba. Yobuluwagi. Slachigubhi. Yabi Flaki. Wotko Isti. Yanasa. Icho. Ithlo. Chofi Honija. Let me push this up. Chisi. Chisi Tlako. Noguze. Noguze Lusti. Dava. Wasco. Pajihoye. Lamhe. Gufko. Jana. Chula. Y'all get quieter and quieter. Yaha. Kuri. Chunta. Ayo. Okiha. Holwidaska. What was Holwidaska? Kangaroo. Okay, okay. All right, all right. We've pretty well covered everything I believe that we need to cover within this first session. And again, bring a thumb drive. That way you'll have these. You can print them off and you'll have them. Maybe put them in a folder. And what I used to, this is what I always tell my students. I said, you can put them in a folder. You can even title it Beginning Creek Language. And you can even show it to people and say, look, I've got a book started or a folder with Beginning Creek Language. And I said, but after you say that, I said, don't just go lay it down. Practice, practice, study it, okay? And so anyway, this is going to be it for today. But is there any more questions before we leave? Is there anything else? Yes, sir.
How long is this class?
50.
Weeks?
It's going to be 15. There's going to be 15 sessions.
What do I get?
What do you get?
Besides your knowledge.
Oh, man. Let me see. Yeah, Creek Nation certificate. We could probably come up with something that we can give you. Yeah. I can Bumpy certificate. Yeah. A good hamburger eater. Yeah. Ate the chicken fried steak faster than anybody.
Champion.
Yeah, champion, yeah. We'll see. Let's look at that, okay? And so that way we can acknowledge that and acknowledge what you've done, because this is going to be a great undertaking if you've never done it. And, you know, I've had a lot of older students. I had one man that was in his 70s that come to my class. And we sat down, and he could speak some, but it was just here and there. And so we had a lot of, you know, conversation on, you know, the language with him, and it was pretty neat. It was pretty interesting. And so, yeah, I think we could probably come up with something that I can give you, because I think,
I was just kidding.
okay, yeah, pat on the back, shaking your hand. Good job, Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
But is there any other questions though? Do we have any questions?
Is there a way we can put like the names of the animals right beside it?
Yes, ma'am. And so what we'll do is, if you, what I'll do, you come back with thumb drives. Just copy this off on thumb drives. I'll come back with copies of this, and then so that way we'll go over it, and then you can write the names in for yourself for the animals. Will that work? And so that way, if you got your thumb drives, and then the next lesson when we go over it, you can copy it and everything, and so we can begin to do those things with it. So that way you have that. Now there's a lot of other material that I have that will have the Creek words on them, but it'll also be just kind of like that greetings page. It'll have it in English too. And so not everything will be just like this one. This particular page here works for two things. Not only do you get to have it, to learn it, and then you can write on it, but also at the same time, this is also something I can give to you as a little quiz. And so, oh boy, yeah. And see, we're calling this Gichlida, to learn. So sometimes we have to find out what we've learned. So, but I think if there's no more questions, then I'm going to go ahead and call this session to an end. Thank everyone for being here with us today. I've enjoyed myself, got to learn everybody, and as we go through this, through the rest of the weeks that we have coming to us, I think it's going to get really interesting, and there's going to be even more questions that are going to come out, and I'll try to fill them the best I can, and I'll do what I can to get the information to you. So, again, just I'll give you my phone numbers later or something. So if you need to call me, then you can call me, or you can text me. My students do this at the college all the time. And just make sure you let me know who you are when you're texting me, because if you send me something, I might send something back, but it might be somebody else if you don't tell me who you are that I'm sending it to. So, but anyway, I guess then this is it, and thank you for coming. Well, I really appreciate you being here. To make this possible, it makes it a lot easier for me to be able to teach it when I have a group like you sitting here before me. Mado to y'all. Mado.